Welcome to the 15-Minute Financial Feast podcast, bringing you 15-minute segments to help you retire with purpose on time. We're serving up food for thought and bread for the head. Are you hungry to learn? Here are your hosts, Mark Triplett and Troy Westendorf.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 15-Minute Financial Feast. My name is Mark Triplett.
And I'm Troy Westendorf.
We are going to be just discussing something here, a topic to help you retire with purpose on time. Give you a little food for thought today, some bread for the head. Are you hungry and ready to learn?
Yes, I'm hungry. It's past breakfast time. I didn't have breakfast. It's time to eat.
So we're going to cover today, what we'll be talking about today is a common question that we hear often from folks who come to our workshops or people that come in to visit with us. And that question is, when can I retire? We'll be talking a little bit more about defining retirement, what it actually means to you, and then deciding when is the right time to make that transition. So let's get started. The reason this topic came up, frankly, was because at the beginning of every one of our workshops, we always ask the attendees, what are 5 things you want to talk about this evening? And, even though we send out invitations and the invitations have different topics on them, we want to custom tailor that discussion that evening to the folks that are there present. Right. And so we always ask, what 5 questions do you want to talk about? And this gentleman raised his hand and he said, I want to know when I can retire, kind of tongue in cheek, like him personally. And so when it came time to answering his question, I had to pause and think a little bit about that. How do you answer that to this individual in this classroom setting? And it just kind of came to me and struck me that, well, the short answer to that is, when can I retire? Well, you can retire when your retirement resources, both income and assets, so income sources like Social Security, pension if you're fortunate enough to have one, perhaps rental property income, business interest, that kind of stuff, and your retirement assets like IOUs to the IRS, like IRAs, 401ks, things like that, your personal savings, your after-tax accounts. When all of those retirement resources allow you to maintain your lifestyle, adjusted for inflation and taxes and other expenses in retirement like healthcare, then I suppose you can make that transition comfortably.
Right, yeah. And in retirement, whenever they say, when can I retire, a lot of them think they can retire when their Social Security benefit kicks in. So if let's say their full retirement age is 67, when they come in, they think that they have to work until age 67 before they can retire. That's kind of the magic number. Once I hit that number, then I can retire.
Yeah, you're right. There's a common myth that my Social Security full retirement age is when I can retire. And they don't understand that they can decouple when they retire from when their full retirement age benefit is for Social Security. And, Troy, I can say that I've never had anybody come in and say, I want my standard of living to be lower in retirement.
Right.
That's never been uttered by anybody we've ever been in the presence of. Most folks want to be able to at least maintain the current standard of living.
Yep.
Adjusted for inflation throughout the rest of their years. And we know that life will change over time. Their lifestyle will change over time.
Right,
but when folks come in, generally they want to at least maintain that current standard of living.
At a minimum. Yeah.
Yeah. And so really to answer that question, when can I retire? We have to first define what does retirement look like, because retirement looks different to different people.
Absolutely.
If you ask one person, what does retirement look like? Define that for me, for you. You're going to get a completely different answer than somebody else that walks in after them.
Yep.
So I think defining retirement is really, really critical. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but the modern idea of retirement, as we think about it today, is actually a pretty modern concept from the 19th century Germany, to be exact. I was reading an article this morning. In 1889, German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck came up with this idea of having the state provide for folks who have reached the age of 70 and kind of are not able to physically do the work anymore. Previously, folks just worked and toiled away until They couldn't anymore. They died, right? You just worked until you died.
Yeah.
But this modern idea of retirement, of having a date or an age at which you can walk away and the state will care for you, that's a very modern concept. And I'm not sure it's one that serves folks very well. This idea that you're just going to no longer be useful at some point and just stop being productive. Yeah, I'm not going to be a productive citizen anymore at this point. So defining retirement is really, really important. What does that look like to somebody? We see folks who want to make a complete transition from their workplace, what they're currently doing, and just not do that anymore.
Yep, be totally done.
Yep. And we always encourage those folks to have some sort of passion to get them up in the morning. Then if you really, if you've served in this capacity, whatever role you've been in, with whatever company you've been in, trading your time and expertise, and you really just want to be done with that and walk away, make a complete transition out of the workforce. Okay. Well, 6 months after you do that and you've rearranged the garage 3 times and you've cleaned out the closet, what are you going to do? What's going to get you up in the morning? And if you don't have something to get you up in the morning and give you some passion to live, you can actually become depressed. And we see people go downhill really, really quickly. So that complete transition out of the workforce is something we can help folks strive for. But at the same time, we also give them a cautionary tale that, okay, that's fine, but you need to have something to get you up in the morning. Now,
absolutely. I think that's something they should be thinking about now. If they don't have a hobby, or if they are not volunteering at something that maybe drives them, start thinking about it now before you retire, because that is important. It's one of the main questions we ask when we have our first discovery meeting is 6 months later, now what?
Yep, 6 months.
You no longer have the interaction of the employees. You no longer have the interaction of going to work and seeing people. What are you going to do with your time? Now, for some, it's not a problem. For others, they've never thought about it because all they've done is punch the clock and went to work every morning.
And maybe it shouldn't be a surprise, but I think it's a surprise to me that it's the hard charging folks that are the ones that are so connected to their identity. Everything's connected to that career.
Yep.
And they're the ones that are probably most susceptible. Oftentimes have the most resources.
Oh yeah. Right.
And they have the ability to completely make that disconnection,
but
they're the ones that suffer the consequences the most. Talk to us a little bit about those that see their modern retirement manifest as a transition to a lower stress, lower paying occupation. So maybe leaving something they hate that compensates them.
Yeah. So there's a lot of clients that are looking at, okay, when can I scale back if I do this? It's going to be like a part-time basis, but this is what I love to do. And when can I stop what I'm doing full-time, start what I'm doing part-time, and still be able to retire, live on my current monthly income or somewhere near that? They don't want to lower their monthly expenses or do the things they normally do. They want to keep doing these things, but they do want to scale back and do the things they love. And we get that, I won't say all of them, but we get a large percentage of people that are like, you know what, I'd like to scale back. I like to do this. It's not my full-time job, but I love doing this, and I can step away from the pressure and the stress of my full-time work and actually have fun doing things and still be okay financially.
Yeah, and so that situation, we might see somebody who has a vision that maybe 10 years from now, they're going to run hard, and then 10 years from now, they're no longer going to contribute to their retirement plans at work. They're going to scale back, maybe do something they enjoy, that they really enjoy. It's fun for them, but they get compensated quite a bit less. But they're able to do that because the other resources that they have and the time horizon that they have is going to allow them to do this. So that's another manifestation of what somebody's retirement vision might look like. And I think it's important that folks really define that and answer the question.
Absolutely.
What does retirement mean to you? What does that vision look like for you? And then start to kind of shape your strategy around that. And
I think asking that question, if it's a married couple to both the husband and the wife, for that matter, that the husband may be thinking something totally different, which we ran into, and then what the wife is thinking at retirement. So one wants to travel, one's like, I don't know if I want to travel. So just having those conversations and working that out now and how that's going to look when that actually happens.
Or they both want to travel, but they want to go in different directions.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
So those discussions are interesting because sometimes
important.
it's like a therapy session.
Yep.
Or first visiting with somebody and both spouses are trying to flush this out because they've never talked about it. So getting all of that straight in your mind, I think, is really important. Then we can move on to that final piece of the discussion today, which is, well, when is the right time to make that transition? And we kind of hinted at this earlier, but once you've defined what your vision or visions of retirement look like, what does that look like in the future, and what's going to satisfy your lifestyle that you have today versus the lifestyle in the future. Once you've defined what that looks like, now you can kind of adjust your current lifestyle for inflation, taxes, healthcare expenses, other things that maybe come up in retirement that you don't have as expenses today.
Yeah, it's, healthcare is a big one. If someone wants to retire before the age of Medicare, we have to calculate healthcare expenses. That can drive up that monthly cost. Not to say that it can't be done, but you have to account for it. So when you say inflation, you say taxes, you say healthcare, all of these things we have to account for. Once we get all those together and we can put it in our plan, we can put it in our software, and we can actually take the stress out of the couple or the individual that wants to retire by showing them, hey, here's where it is. Here's what it looks like. You're either okay to do this when you want to do it, or we need to make some changes so you can do this when you want to do it, whether that's 10 years out or whatever that time window is.
And once you're confident that your retirement resources, as we mentioned before, both income and assets, are sufficient to allow you to maintain that desired standard of living, to achieve that vision for whatever retirement looks like to you, adjusted for taxes and inflation and other expenses like healthcare that get forgotten about because those come out of your paycheck. If you're a W-2 employee, right? Healthcare expenses and taxes come out of your paycheck before it ever hits your bank account. So you have to account for those. And once you're comfortable and confident that your resources will allow you to maintain that lifestyle adjusted for taxes, inflation, et cetera, then you can start thinking about making that transition out. And I think having everything organized and being able to answer the questions about where am I now relative to where I want to be in the future and what do I need to do to get there is so empowering for people.
Oh, absolutely.
They have things everywhere. They have this retirement account at work, the rollover IRA from my previous employer that I've got at some other custodian. Somebody sold me this and I've got this variable annuity and I've got this life insurance and I'm not sure why.
Several IRAs at different companies.
Five bank accounts and CDs at 4 different institutions. And you're like, what does all of this do? How does it all work together? And once they get their arms around all of that, have a articulated vision of the future, and we can start to pull all of these sources together and demonstrate how they work together and what their current baseline is if they just continue to do what they're doing. And then the seemingly insignificant little actions they can take today that over time compound to significant results. It gives them so much power to guide themselves in the direction they want to go, as opposed to just kind of being out the ocean in a life raft, hoping and wishing. So I think anyway, that's probably enough for our discussion today, but I'll leave you with this. You're going to suffer one of two pains in this process. You're either going to suffer the pain of preparing, which frankly weighs ounces, and we help guide folks through that process. And there are other financial professionals that work like us that guide you through that process. So the pain of preparing, which weighs ounces, or the pain of repairing, which weighs tons. Failing to take action now and having to deal with the consequences later. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this week's show. We'll just leave you with these parting words. Don't forget that every single dollar you have has a purpose, and every single dollar you have has a timeline, making sure you're organizing that purpose and timeline so that stuff is working for you. Until next time, my name is Mark Triplett.
Troy Westendorf.
And we want you to be sure that you are striving to retire with purpose
and on time.
You've been listening to the 15-Minute Financial Feast podcast. Remember, every dollar has a purpose and every dollar has a timeline. If you have questions about today's topic, schedule a call with a team member. Visit www.mypt5.com. Until next time, be sure you're taking steps to retire with purpose on time. Mark Triplett is an investment advisor representative of and advisory services offered through Royal Fund Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Nothing contained in this program should be considered an offer to buy or sell securities. Different investments have different risks associated with them, and not all investments are appropriate for all investors.